Do you ever look around and see people who seem to have this direct line to God? There's this ease and joy in which they live their faith out. They talk about the ways they hear from God. They're able to discern His will and make decisions in their life guided by His Holy Spirit. And you wonder, why can't I have that kind of relationship? Or why is it always crickets from God? I used to think you had to be extra special or spiritual to have this kind of relationship with God. But I've come to realize that we serve a God who wants to speak to us personally and specifically, that there are no favorites in God's family. The problem is, in this postmodern, high-tech world in which we live in, that we are not short of information and people seeking our attention. And we are susceptible to listening and arranging our spiritual lives to listen to Jesus, plus a myriad of other voices that distract us from the one voice that we need to follow. We scroll and we patrol our social channels and we listen to so many people that we no longer recognize or are able to discern when and how God is speaking to us. Have you ever noticed how many people are shouting to get our attention? From my experience, God doesn't shout. His voice is still and it's small, and it's found in His Word and experience when we put into practice how He is leading and guiding us. It's living undistracted from all the noise and taking time every day to draw close to God as we seek to know Him through our Bible. John 10 talks about Jesus being our good shepherd. Sheep are not very smart, but they're wise in one way. They know the shepherd's voice from that of a stranger, and they trust the shepherd to guide and protect them. So how do we put ourselves in a position to hear from God so that we can not only hear His voice, but follow Him? Dallas Willard says it's much more important to cultivate the quiet inward space of constant listening than to always be approaching God for a specific direction. I'm a great talker, not the best listener, and it takes discipline and practice to remove the distraction to listen to God. But here's why this is so good for us. When we are seeking God and we're inclining our ear towards Him and we're expectant that He's going to respond, then His voice becomes the loudest. Why is it when you go out to eat with your friends or your family or a spouse and you're able to have this amazing conversation over dinner despite all the other noises and distractions happening around you? Well, scientists have discovered that a group of neurons in our brain's auditory stem help us to tune into specific conversations in a crowded room. In order to focus on a particular conversation, listeners need to be able to focus on the voice of the speaker they wish to listen to. We have to decide what voice we want to listen to in such a way that all the others are tuned out. David positioned himself to hear from God so many times through Psalms, and in Psalm 27:13, he says, I would have been hopeless except that I expect to see God. I have anticipation that God is going to come through. So as we open up our Bible, approach God in prayer today, go in with an expectation and a sensitivity to hear from God as your faith and your busy life intersect one another.